your mouth, better add your respect. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is the throne. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone. Throw it off of my brain and I'm back to the bone.
Welcome, everyone. We are back with week 2 here for the very first KDL regular season. My name is William Cho, joined by State. And it's my first time finally joining for the regular season. And having seen the first week of Match6 State, I'm very excited for what's in store.
Yeah, it feels like KDL has just completely stepped up. We got the new tracks, the new patches out. The game is more fun than ever. The production is better than ever.
Yeah.
I was really enjoying watching the heart rate monitors when Peter and Wolf were casting on Wednesday. Just watching some of these rookie players get on stage and see their heart rates really go through the roof. It's an exciting moment. Exciting time here in KDL. There's so many rookie teams competing in the first ever regular season. You know, they got a lot to prove, and, you know, maybe we're going to have some upsets. Maybe KWANGDONGFREECS will continue their reign of dominance from the preseason. Only time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, you know, everyone's kind of assuming that that's probably in store, right? Just because they looked so dominant during the preseason. But like you said, a lot of things have changed. We'll take a look at all of this as we continue the show today, but let's take a look at the overview of what the entire league looks like. So we do have some overarching changes here, and mostly in the fact that we have a bit of an extended schedule here for the regular season.
Yeah, it's a little bit longer. Every Wednesday and Saturday at 6 p.m. you can catch us for the regular season, and that postseason will kick off November 18th, and we'll wrap up all the way with the finals on December 9th. So as opposed to the preseasons where things kind of moved along quite quickly, it's going to be a very slow build, a lot of kart rider action for a number of weeks, and of course, a lot of prize money on the line. 100 million Korean won. That's, I think, around something like 75,000 US dollars. Just for first place. So in total, there's a ton of money up for grabs. A lot for these teams to be playing for. You know that pretty much everybody on stage wants to go home a champion.
Yeah, of course, we're also recognizing the fan race MVPs as well here, starting with the regular season. And, you know, something that we tried to emphasize during the preseason, but maybe didn't quite, you know, really feel, you weren't really able to feel it at home if you're watching from a global audience perspective, is that now that we have the regular season, this is where your career really starts to rack up, right? The preseason, sure, you know, you guys, some of you won first place, like the KWANGDONGFREECS, but it's not really on the record. It starts now here with the regular season. This is where it counts. This is where we can start to say, okay, you have how many trophies, right? How many wins you have under your belt? This is where it all begins.
Yeah, everything in the preseason for the past couple of months has been building for this moment, the debut of the regular season. And so a lot of people are wondering, you know, will the KWANGDONGFREECS actually be able to deliver the same success in the preseason they did into the regular season? Excuse me, I lost my train of thought there for a second because the KWANGDONGFREECS historically not quite as successful as teams like Live Sandbox, that just have this legendary regular season legacy. And so now that we're here in the official season, you know, maybe these teams are going to step up. Maybe Live Sandbox, they're going to be able to deliver what the fans expected from them from the get-go with the KDL.
Yeah, of course, I mean, KWANGDONGFREECS, they've been sticking with the same four-man squad for the entire year, right? So both preseasons into the regular season. On the side of Live Sandbox, kind of, you know, one of the two towers, the two pillars here of Kart Rider overall. Obviously, they had to go through some changes just because they lost some of their legendary players to mandatory military service. So they're maybe still in a bit of an adjustment period. But we're taking a look at the fan predictions here for today's matches, and I mean, let's be real. It's not too surprising. It is a bit more one-sided than I thought.
Yeah, there's almost no red on that. It's just 93% blue, which is Unbelievable. But I mean, on paper, you know, Desperado, they're a pretty rookie team. They're coming in under the helm of their captain, Banana. You might remember him from Finale in the previous preseason, the item ace, the ever-charismatic item ace that led their team to many different victories in item mode over the course of the preseasons, but not too much success there in the postseason. Maybe their odds are going to change here in their favor in the regular season, but going up against KWANGDONG FREECS on, day 3 is kind of a David versus Goliath matchup, and the fan vote really proves it. 7% to 93%. Always versus NUTMITE. These are two teams that are, you know, rookies, but NUTMITE a little bit more veteran with a roster. More of an even split there from the fans, but still heavily one favored.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That second match it's very much a toss-up. The first one, I have to say, you know, in theory, yeah, KWANGDONG FREECS definitely favored. But the good news for Desperado is they also kicked off the season with a win under their belt, right? So that's why we saw earlier on the scoreboard, they are currently at the top next to KWANGDONG FREECS. So even should they fall to KDF this early, it's not like they're getting fallen all the way back to the bottom of the scoreboard. It's just like, okay, hey, this was a match we were always going to lose during the round robin. We can always get back into it. We started off with a win. We still have our foot in the door towards that postseason.
Yeah, and you know, maybe they can come through with at least a close performance here if they don't get a win and try to preserve that round lead that they have coming in, because right now, +2 overall in the standings. Once we come into that postseason, you know, round differential really can be the difference between going to the playoffs and potentially not making it to the playoffs. So for Desperado, even if they are really going to struggle to take down KWANGDONG FREECS in speed and item and potentially in an ace match, at least you can play for every individual track. You know, try and minimize the damage if you are going to take some damage here, and just set your eyes on next week and the weeks to follow.
I mean, that matters. I mean, we had situations like that in preseason too, right? Where, you know, trying to determine what the fourth team was going to be into that playoffs part of preseason too. I was like, okay, well, now we have some tiebreaker scenarios where the round wins might matter, maybe the track wins, things like that. So Desperado, again, like you said, even if, let's say in theory, most teams are going to lose to KDF, if you are still able to make it close, then you have an edge over everybody else. So we'll have to see if Desperado's able to make that success happen here today as they face off against such a strong opponent early on here in the regular season.
Well, based on their interviews with the staff, you know, heading into this regular season of KDL, they feel pretty confident in their chances of kind of becoming the dark horse and eventually, you know, making a ticket into the postseason behind Banana's leadership. This is a team that on item mode should be looking really strong. They have one of the best item aces in the business. They also have Taman added to the roster, which is going to be a really formidable lineup moving forward. And, you know, maybe we have some underdog stories similar to what we saw from Songnam Rocks in the preseasons, where they win in item mode and then maybe one player on this team can very much step it up in the ace matches, and that can be a winning formula. And so with a big meta shift from the previous patch to the new patch in item mode, it's a big shakeup. We've seen in the past in the preseasons, a lot of these amateur teams, when the meta in item mode shifts rapidly, they seem like, for whatever reason, they are better at adjusting with quickness. And so who knows? We might have an underdog story here for Team Desperado, who is getting ready to come onto the stage right now.
Yeah, we will be kicking things off with this match, the team match between Desperado and the KWANGDONG FREECS. There he is, Banana, the captain, the item ace, and the ever charismatic and very energetic racer here on the stage.
Yeah, and really the team that recruited every single player onto this roster. He is their anchor coming onto the stage. Striker Aspide's coming back. He's been saying in interviews that he's feeling really confident. He's pretty much all in on Kart Rider League for this season, is what he said. He is giving it his all. And everyone on this team's going to have to step up if they want to take down titans like the KWANGDONG FREECS, because this four-man roster that's about to take the stage is, simply put, the best in the business. I would say that almost every single player on any single team could be the Speed Ace. These guys are top to bottom rock solid, and they're looking to continue their preseason success here in the regular season, starting off with a championship.
I mean, there is a reason that they are so, in some ways, stubborn about keeping a four-man roster, even in the team matches, right? Even though you still have to always play the item mode, even though we have these item changes, you know, the game overall has changed with the cart bodies now being able to go up all the way up to the heroic level, things like that, and they're still saying, no, we believe we have the four best players in Kart Rider Drift overall in the country, and they're sticking with it, and so far they've proven it here in preseason 1 and 2.
I mean, we were talking about this too. You have a four-man roster, you get that first place. You're not splitting the prize with a fifth or a sixth player, and that team is confident enough that they're like, you know what, we can just run with this four-man squad. We don't need a fifth player. We don't need a sixth player in the expanded regular season roster size. We can just bring this four-man team all the way to success as Desperado looks to avenge their struggles in the prelims and look to get a W streak here against the reigning preseason champs.
I mean, it'd be a story, right? What a way to kick things off. You get your revenge coming up from the prelims against one of the opponents you had to meet there to enter here into the regular season, and then you were able to fight against Guangdong Freaks. So this is funny because the main sponsor for Guangdong Freaks, Guangdong, they make a lot of like either medicine or supplements like that. They're a company that creates that. So they're saying, okay, we took down the nut, the NUTMITE, the peanuts. Now it's time for some medicine. So they're looking to continue chomping on their opponents here in KDL.
That's more clever than I actually realized.
It is pretty funny.
I appreciate that breakdown there, William. As KWANGDONG Freaks just, I mean, they've been like this for pretty much, I think, preseason 1, where oftentimes in their trash talk, they're not even really fixated on their opponents. They're just like, nah, we're just going to look inward right here. We have the confidence. We don't need a trash talk. We don't need to try and fight a big game. And I mean, even here, being humble, we're not a strong team yet. Go easy on us. A little bit of tongue-in-cheek there as KDF. Absolutely the favorites to run away with this league, unless some of these amateur teams or maybe some of the pro teams that have been re-kitted in the first season of the regular season at KDL can step up and stop them.
I mean, they're, love them or hate them, one thing that KWANGDONG Freaks is good at is that, they don't care about talking the talk. All they care about is walking the walk, right?
Yeah.
They say, hey, we'll show you on the track who's really better. I mean, who cares what the trash talk looks like? Let's see if they continue to do the same. And they want to get that continuous success right off in the first track because we're going right back to World Tour Terracotta Twister.
Yeah, KWANGDONG Freaks actually looking at the speed track list here, picking a lot of the more difficult ones. Terracotta Twister there in round number 1, Mind Winding Slips in round 3. Boom Hill Tunnel, it might seem like it's simple, but because of how wide that track is, there's a lot of body fighting that takes place, a lot of body checks that happen as you run through. So definitely looking to skill check Desperado a little bit here in speed.
Yeah, meanwhile, Desperado going for, somewhat more field tracks, as we like to talk about, with World Tour Miami Drive returning here for KDL, and then Village Bayside Bridge Run, another classic, where it's going to be, a lot of just how can we try to overtake you, right? It's not just getting out in front and then you're able to keep the lead on tracks such as Mind Winding Slopes, where KWANGDONG Freaks, they've, continued to find a lot of good success, because if they're able to get, the 1 or 1-2 even early on, they'll just kind of block for each other, and they're able to continue all the way to the end.
Yeah, Winding Slopes feels like one of those tracks that's just the best in terms of securing a 1-2, but we're not there just yet, William. We're going to go to World Tour Terracotta Twister to start off this battle between the KWANGDONG Freaks here and Desperado.
And the race begins, a tried and true track here, especially for KWANGDONG Freaks, where they've continued to find success every time they've selected this track. I
mean, their mechanical skill and their cornering especially is so good. And here on Terracotta Twister, where the 8 extra gears added from that heroic tier, it's going to be even more tricky to try to go through this inner area of the map, go through, all that terracotta. What's it called? It's like not a mausoleum.
The
it's
tombs,
like a tomb. Yes, thank you. I was at a loss for words there, but now entering that in just a moment. I really want to see how KWANGDONG Freaks decide to take these lines, because with this high-speed racing, it can be really precarious to see Spear barely coming through on that, almost touching every single corner as KDF takes the most aggressive lines. And look at what it nets at the very end of that. Spear able to get past Striker for a moment.
Wow, Ghost, really good recovery. We got to give a round of applause on that side for Desperado, because Spear did everything he could to try to knock him off the track. But I do want to mention what we're seeing right now is a lot more just trying to push people as you're continuing your lines, because we have that patch change where you're not losing your boost gauge because of collision. So now it's much more about actually trying to shove each other out or just staying right ahead of them so they can't overtake you. And both teams are very focused on that.
Yeah, there's a lot more body fighting that's actually taking place here. Desperado, I got to give props to them. This is one of the more difficult maps in the field. And right now they are holding on to a 2-3-4 position. Striker actually trying to pass World right now as we enter the tomb section yet again. Cool coming in as reinforcements. As we take these first couple of turns, we'll see if he's able to actually supplant Ghost here. A little bit of body fighting.
Oh, Ghost, good recovery, though. He knew the pressure was coming in from Cool, and Promise is going to take that chance to get right back into fourth. Now, Striker's still trying to vie for first to try to make sure that they don't lose the point lead, because right now, KWANGDONG Freaks are back in the lead with 3 points. World way ahead. He's not losing sight of that, and it's going to be the 1-4-5-7. KWANGDONG Freaks able to edge it out at the end.
Yeah, SUNGBIN and Cool coming in very clutch there to round out the top 4 and prevent the 2-3-4 finish coming in for Desperado. But on track number 1, one of the more technical tracks that we have here in this 5-track lineup, for Desperado to have such a good showing, they were in a winning position all the way through, you know, 3/4 of the entire race, and they just barely lost it right there at the end from some clutch driving by the Kwangdong Freaks. If they can continue to deliver a performance like this one, they could really make speed mode a contest.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely seemed like they had the right ideas, right? Desperado seemed to be very well aware of what Kwangdong Freaks was going to vie for. They knew that the first place was pretty much out of their control, so it was about trying to hold on to that 2-3-4 in the very last section of lap 2. However, I mean, it's just a little bit too much pressure. It wasn't just Cool, but it was SUNGBIN coming in as well to make sure that they can pressure Promise out of that 4th, 5th place, and then he's eventually pushed all the way down, all the way to 6th. And also, let's just say it like it is, having FREECS in 8th place locked in from the very beginning didn't exactly help Desperado.
No, we'll see if the rear ranks of Desperado can step up here as we move on to track number 2. It's going to be World Tour Miami Drive. Kwangdong Freeks looking to compound on that track 1 victory here as we go to Desperado's track of choice.
Yeah, so while this track is wide and it is a bit of a field track, of course you have these boosters built in, which we haven't seen too many tracks return with this function here in Kart Rider Drift. This is one of the first ones they're seeing actually in the league. And so it's going to be a lot of contention of who can maintain that, because if you miss one of those, you're just way far behind.
Yeah, and I can make taking some of these corners as well quite difficult, especially if you go off some of those jumps that happened earlier in the track. But Kwangdong Freeks off to a really good start, even more solid than Terracotta Twister as World and Cool, both with blue nitrous gauges quite full, leading in the 1-2 finish. SUNGBIN doing potentially a little bit of sweeping here to try and solidify that. But Ghost, Speed Ace coming in.
Yeah, he's trying to just keep up right up against Cool. And, you know, Desperado, you have Ghost, you have Striker, you have these two racers who are able to always try to vie for that first place at any given moment. So Kwangdong Freeks, you can tell they're not playing lax here today. They want to make sure that they secure the victory here in week 2.
Yeah, but SUNGBIN, World, and Cool looking so strong right now as we enter the second and final lap of this track. Promise and FreeSky now, formerly known as Taman, trying to break through, but these collisions, not the best right now for Desperado, and Kwangdong Freeks, it feels like they're really starting to solidify this one too.
Yeah, and I was about to say, you know, even though early on we saw on the minimap that Spear was all the way in the back, because of the nature of this track and the fact that you still had Promise right nearby him, Spear found the opportunity to kind of disrupt the entire line, and now you're still keeping the safe 1-2 here for Kwangdong Freeks.
Yeah, Spear doing a great job of, you know, sweeping right there on the bottom rank as SUNGBIN and World like to hold on to this 1-2 finish. So for Cool and Spear right now in position 6 and 8, it's all about trying to build that nitrous gauge, the team nitrous gauge for SUNGBIN and World so they can finish with a 1-2 victory. FreeSky hot on their tail, gonna try and catch up, but I think that lead is too much, Troba.
Yeah, I mean, look at the way that World and SUNGBIN are racing. I mean, they're pretty much racing as one. It's almost as if they're chained to each other, tethered to each other, because they're constantly drafting off of it and able to maintain that boost from their teammates at the bottom of the ranks as well. So this is how you can tell, again, that this is just a very veteran team. Once they have the 1-2 locked in, they say, okay, this is a field track. It's really just about, you know, maintaining that speed, and they're going to try to draft and try to overtake on these wider corners, maybe take a different build. Let's just make sure that we're maintaining top speed all the way through. Just make sure you continue to feed us boosts here at the top of the ranks.
Almost a half second separating SUNGBIN in first place from Desperado's lead racer Striker there. As Kwangdong Freeks, they look like they're gaining a little bit of momentum. That was a more solid victory than even on their map choice Terracotta Twister.
Yeah, and then of course now we are awaiting track 3, which is going to be Mine-Winding Slopes. Now, you know, there were moments during the preseasons where Kwangdong Freeks, despite picking this coming up track, they had some mistakes, but at the same time, you talked about it earlier, State, it's a very difficult technical track. So if they're able to get the lead, I mean, we should assume that they're not making any crucial mistakes where they're going to give up the entire points.
No, I think this team has the mechanical skill to just be able to ride that momentum through on Winding Slopes, as we might go to the deciding map here in speed mode between Kwangdong Freeks and Desperado. It is Winding Slopes.
Already a solid lead 2-0 in speed mode here for Kwangdong Freeks. We'll see if they're able to close things out here for speed mode and send us right into item mode. As Desperado this time, a pretty smooth start for Promise as everyone else gets knocked around and loses a lot of that momentum.
And Desperado had a Pretty explosive beginning there, but somehow FreeSky with a collision just lost all of that speed. Falls all the way down to the bottom of ranks. Cool able to solidify the top spot with SUNGBIN right behind him, but Striker and Ghost, two of the speediest racers Desperado has. Oh, wow, big collisions on both sides.
I mean, Ghost with just a number of good recoveries today. Will it be enough to keep them in the race, though? Because right now it's still KWANGDONGFREECS who are looking to just take over the 1-2 position in the later part of the track.
Yeah, pretty much everybody behind Cool had some significant collision right there on that first bridge. So Cool in first place is going to be really hard to upset. If you're a Desperado, you got to be looking to try and, you know, solidify the middle ranks, but that means that FreeSky and Promise really need to step it up, and right now they are floundering at 7 and 8.
Yeah, and Ghost, we saw him do a couple high-risk maneuvers here, just trying to block off and force KWANGDONGFREECS to either collide straight into the wall or have to take the longer route. And Ghost, okay, despite making some of those mistakes, he's still trying to able to contest, but is it going to be enough? Because right now all the odd ranks are in favor of KWANGDONGFREECS.
Oh! Whoa! Out of nowhere, Desperado comes through with a 2-3-4. Ghost just made magic happen, as that was one of the most impressive comeback victories we've had here, not even in the regular season, but in the KDL to date, as Desperado just explodes across the finish line with a 2-3-4 coming from off the map.
Yeah, I mean, this, I'm just going to say it, the entire team has to buy Ghost dinner, because the number of maneuvers he had starting in the tunnels all the way to the last jump, I mean, he literally single-handedly kept second place for the longest time and then disrupted KWANGDONGFREECS enough where they had to make the choice of either avoiding colliding or colliding and still losing speed on the jump. No matter which one they chose, it was a lose-lose, and to be able to single-handedly make all of that happen for the rest of his teammates to cross 2-3-4 is insane.
I mean, that spin turn into the body check to allow his teammates to come back and regain. I'm so glad we're getting a replay out of this, because it was almost too fast to follow. Although this is, you know, right after the actual really hype moment, but
it has forced, it basically what we're trying to show there is it had forced the rest of KWANGDONGFREECS to not be able to maintain their line, so they were still trying to figure out, okay, what's the angle I want to take the jump on, because if you're not taking that center route, you're going to hit the walls, and during that moment, Ghost was able to maintain his speed for second place, and then the rest of his teammates are able to just keep a straight line across the finish line. A great way to stay in the race as we now get to go to track 4, Desperado's choice of Bayside Bridge Run.
Team Desperado staying alive here in speed mode, trailing 2-1 for the KWANGDONGFREECS, but some heroics by Ghost are just really giving them a breath of fresh air, potentially a second wind, is once again on track number 4. They're starting off in a really good position.
Yeah, Promise eventually does get pushed back. He was trying to sweep a little bit too much, just focusing on trying to block them from their optimal lines here. Eventually he loses that momentum, but he's still close by where he can do some damage, so we'll have to keep an eye on the bottom side of the ranks.
Yeah, Promise right now in 8th place. Ghost right behind him. Ghost is really good. I was going to say before he even came on screen, he's really good at climbing up the ranks, almost like Neil is in a way, as he's starting to contest one of these top positions. Coming into these turns right now, Striker doing his best to slow down both Spear and World, give FreeSky some more breathing room. Oh, I love those collisions. Yeah. That body block so good by Striker, and now he's blocking World and Cool.
I mean, just amazing sweeping. Eventually, though, it was a 1v2, so he could only choose one player, and even then, he's the one who lost more momentum. So again, we have to focus on the fact that while you don't lose boost gauge, if you're able to entirely block them, obviously their speed will drop, and that's what Striker was trying to focus on. It gives FreeSky the opportunity, but Striker, he now needs to climb back up to secure this victory, because Ghost and Promise, they are locked in right now in 7th and 8th.
Yeah, Ghost and Promise are going to have a hard time catching up to the rest of the pack, and so for Desperado, unless they can bring up some heroics like they did on the previous track, 1-2 finish is going to be the winning card for them to play. But FreeSky right now, he's trying to catch back up to World, who took away his first place.
Yeah, he has both boosts already banked up, so he's able to use one, try to catch back up, but World still staying ahead. FreeSky, he is able to find one opening, and Ghost now here trying to contest. If Ghost can jump over, try to secure the 1-2. No, it's going to be SUNGBIN who's able to block off all the members of Desperado, and the 1-2 goes to the KWANGDONGFREECS, who will close out speed mode 3-1.
Yeah, that was a valiant effort from FreeSky and Ghost. Just the body blocking, they were trying to go for the perfect setup to establish that 1-2 finish, but I mean, with 3 racers all around him, it was a losing battle, and now KWANGDONGFREECS to no one's surprise, really, going to be taking speed mode 3-1. And if you're going to be a Desperado fan looking for the victory condition, you shouldn't be too concerned about speed mode. It's all about relying on Banana in item mode to come through in the clutch and force that ace match.
Yeah, absolutely. And then meanwhile, also, if you're hoping that Desperado eventually will still be able to make the postseason, I think the fact that they were able to at least put up some form of a fight here in speed mode against a team like KWANGDONGFREECS, even take a track off of them. We talked about the round conditions, you know, the round differentials that might come into play in the later part of the season. I mean, Desperado, not a bad speed mode, and even better if they're able to take the victory here in item mode and take us to our ace match.
Yeah, going 3-1 against the KWANGDONGFREECS is a pretty impressive performance for pretty much every single team, except maybe Liv Sandbox, who on paper can really hang with them. As Banana swapping in now for Goes. Banana, the captain of this team, the anchor that assembled them coming in from preseason 2 into the regular season. This new squadron looking to try and come through in item mode with a significantly new meta, and we'll see if the Freaks can continue their success from week number 1 and deliver yet another win.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, you have to wonder if because of the gear changes right now with better stats that you can add on to your cart bodies, does it favor KWANGDONGFREECS in some way? Because you're able to continue to just play that tempo style and keep the momentum, keep the speed up, stay up in that first place or close by it. We'll have to wait and see. Now, we're looking at the track list. It does look like Desperado, I mean, both sides really going back to mostly Old Faithful. We do have Graveyard Cemetery Circuit coming back out. And, of course, you have a couple of those jump shortcuts that could make or break the deal if the items are timed right here with that pick coming in from KWANGDONGFREECS.
Yeah, no surprise that Desperado is going to be trying to choose some of the more complicated maps, such as World Tour London Night, that very often does come down to timings in that final lap, as Banana's going to try and set up one of those wombo combos potentially for his team. He'll come out with a bang here and take the lead in item mode. Desperado would really love to force an ace match here against the league favorites.
We do have a lot of fans for the KWANGDONGFREECS, and no surprise, I mean, they won both preseason team modes back-to-back, but can they make it happen when it matters as we continue the regular season? It's going to be the first track of item mode, World Tour London Night. The countdown kicks us off here for item mode, and we should mention, of course, World Tour London Night, a 2-star difficulty track, so we will not see some of those new items here, like the Big Banana or even the Siren.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more classic kart rider drift here in item mode, although I gotta say, with the gears, it feels so much faster. And that was a great point that you made leading into this match, that, you know, the higher speed that you actually can attain here with those additional gears and the new heroic tier added in the previous patch, it does make this feel a lot faster. That is something that in the long term can favor a team like the KWANGDONGFREECS.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just try to get that lead, and even if you take some damage, you're able to get it right back if you just get one nitrous or such like that. But as you mentioned, State, this track, no matter what happens in any of the metas so far that we've had, it does seem to always come down to that very last lap. It's a very timing-based track, so I'll have to wait and see. As promised, able to kind of take a hefty lead. He does have the double EMPs just in case for a later part of the track.
Yeah, double EMP, potentially not the best item setup right now for Desperado, as they had a 30 EMP, I believe, on FREECS there for a moment. But for now, Promise could be holding on to those. Finally does cycle them out as he tries to get something a bit more useful. And KWANGDONGFREECS, cool and world, off to a really good start. Actually, for now, coming into the finish line here of lap number 2, KWANGDONGFREECS for a moment was holding on to all top 4 spots, so tempo absolutely in their favor.
Yeah, now Desperado, though, they do have the double Guardian Angels, or they used one just now to make sure they can try to climb back up, because as you mentioned, KWANGDONGFREECS was keeping the tempo, but they do have good defense already lined up. If they can find a good opening, no scanner on the side of KWANGDONGFREECS, they don't know what Desperado has in store just yet.
KWANGDONGFREECS just not keen on exactly what the plan is from Desperado, but Desperado, look at their setups. They have a lot of nitrous. They even have some magnets and a nitrous right there on Promise, and SUNGBIN here on the high ground, gonna try and take that boost, and his double nitrous coming through with a turn.
But Promise, here he comes. He used the magnet. He tries to catch up, but SUNGBIN, it's just too far. No, the bump on the corner, and Promise is able to avoid it. SUNGBIN felt the pressure. He surely saw it on the minimap. Maybe even a call was made. He tried to take it too close, and Promise is able to sneak right on by.
Yeah, that corner plus the rocket coming in. I mean, Desperado just kind of showing their veterancy here in item mode, as Banana has been a specialist for a long time coming. item ace on every team that he's participated in so far here in the KDL, and for good reason. You see it right there, Desperado. They did not lose their cool there at the end of lap number 2, despite the pacing KWANGDONGFREECS had. And coming down that home stretch, we talk about how this is a timing-based map. The item setup that they had was fantastic. There were multiple chances. They had various players with nitrous. They had one player, I believe, with nitrous and a magnet. And on top of that, in the finish line, the critical moments, they come through with some key attacks. And if there's no shield on SUNGBIN there to parry it away, that plus the corner basically it seals the envelope on that track. Desperado able to pick up a nice win, and Banana looking really confident on stage.
Yeah, well, we're going right onto track 2. Can they continue the momentum as we go to KWANGDONGFREECS' choice of one of the newer themes coming in its Graveyard Cemetery Circuit?
Off we go here on Graveyard Cemetery Circuit, one of the spooky season maps here as we enter the middle of October. You can see those happy little pumpkins.
Well, they are getting smashed as we go through the track.
Yeah, maybe they're a little bit less happy as all their item boxes get picked up. It's like, no, those are our children.
But it's for the greater good, as some might say here as we continue the track here. Now, some racers are going to prefer to take a couple extra items as they're able to try to get the tempo back. Meanwhile, SUNGBIN, he was in the lead, so he's just trying to hold on to that, taking that second jump on the shortcut to make sure he can stay ahead. And the Siren, here it comes. This is a 3-star track, so a couple of those new items, we're going to start to see them in play. Cool, with another Siren ready to go.
Yeah, if you haven't played too much since the new patch, absolutely recommend you try it out, as that big Banana scanner and Siren all available here on the 3-star item mode tracks. The more difficult tracks is actually Desperado and the Freaks, both holding on to Sirens of their own. Banana's gonna pop his, actually doesn't go for any collisions right there, just kind of waddles on by as Desperado is trying to close the distance right now on Cool, who's sitting in first place with a comfortable lead. FREECS actually not able to make that jump because of the attacks coming in. And Cool behind all of this also has a double shield. Look at the mini-map right now. He is starting to get some serious momentum.
Yeah, I mean, this is where that tempo comes into play. This is when the higher gears really come into play, because Cool, more shields to go. You got to get that UFO. I mean, Banana's holding on to it, but I don't know. I think you try to get the tempo back a little bit, especially when Promise is so close. Try to make sure you can close it out, and Cool, there we go. The attack's finally landing as he tries to take that jump, and Promise will now contest for first place.
Yeah, that UFO coming in clutch there is Cool. Finally gets supplanted out of first place, and he's going to battle for it back. Here with Promise, a little bit of body blocking right there as we have some slow-mo sweeping coming through, and more attacks coming in. KWANGDONGFREECS trying to set up for a good combination here as we enter lap number 3.
Yeah, FREECS does have the magnet and boost combo once again, so a bit of a classic try, but everyone else kind of evened out. We are now starting to see some of those items get cycled through. Promise, really good defense, ready to go. He's got that shield, blocks out the rocket. He gets another one and the EMP as well.
Yeah, EMP gonna be really useful here, but the shield pop is a little bit too late. FREECS will see if he can come up and solidify this position. I think, in fact, he will.
With the magnet?
Yeah, it's slowing him down, but it's not going to be enough, Will. And that's going to be Desperado going up 2-0 here in item mode. And I don't know, man. They're starting to make me a believer. That was a really solid victory there in track number 2. I think Banana is leading this team to an ace match.
Absolutely. You'd love to see it. I mean, what a story it would be. And sure, you know, the banner of Desperado, we're calling it the amateur team because they don't have a pro team backing. But some of these players, again, we've seen them time and time again. And then on top of that, Banana's trying to bring together an entire new combination of this roster. And it's looking great. I mean, halfway through that track, we did see KWANGDONGFREECS gaining a lot of tempo, but one good lightning resets that tempo, and then Desperado looking for that win condition. Even if the shield doesn't work out, they still have another boost ready to go. Really good setups here in item mode.
Yeah, it feels like Desperado has an answer for every single trick, every play that the KWANGDONGFREECS are bringing to the table, as Banana's leadership, his veteran status as an item ace across multiple teams, paying dividends here for the amateurs, trying to upset the top dogs. We'll see if they can seal the deal here in item mode as we move on to the next track. It's going to be Glacier Polar Halfpipe.
One track away from bringing us to an ace match between Desperado and KWANGDONGFREECS. Desperado, can they make the magic happen once again here in track 3?
track number 3, this feels like one that Banana historically has liked quite a bit here, as you can really set up some combinations on that final lap, going for the high ground, that shortcut advantage, and potentially denying it from your opponent's world. Very actually close to getting onto that high ground shortcut here right from the get-go, with a little bit of speed just coming up a little short. But here for Team Desperado, it feels like whatever happens in lap number 1, lap number 2, it doesn't phase them very much. Even when we see the KWANGDONGFREECS taking a considerable lead, Desperado always has the endurance to actually carry through and really kind of play for the late game here in Item.
Yeah, and I think something we noticed, previously right here on track 2 before we came into Polar Half Pipe is, again, they're not afraid to regain tempo. They're not saying, oh, we still want to wait for the wombo combo. They understand that the meta has changed, and they say, okay, if we're, halfway through lap 2 and we're not close to the lead, we got to just use whatever we have. Reset your items, make sure we can regain items, but use it on a timing where we can try to catch back up. And they're continuing to do the same as they have both Promise and FreeSky in contention, but now they have the leisure to start banking up some items.
They have 3 Angel Shields and 2 shields right now on Promise. It's an insane defensive setup. Unfortunately, no EMP, but Promise, while he got blocked by the UFO, he was able to body block SUNGBIN.
And SUNGBIN's just waiting, trying to bait out another item as well, right? Trying to make sure that his attack lands even better. A lot of mind games there from the 2 players. But eventually the stalemate, it is going to reset as FreeSky with the double Guardian Angel now in first place.
Yeah, and you see Banana right there for a moment on screen as we entered lap number 3, just completely slowed down, wanted to pick up a double item right there, and really just kind of take more of a shot-calling role as we're going to go up onto this. Actually, Banana here with a double Nitrous saved up. Him and Striker are both right here on the heels.
And he's
going
gonna
SUNGBIN.
Get ahead. He is gonna eat the rocket, but Striker still has one more boost. If Banana can just try to make sure that World doesn't gain any more speed, he's gonna eat the Wisp as well. And Banana now in first place. He makes the way for Striker, and he spins across the finish line. What a setup as we see a clean 3-0 in item mode. And Desperado will be taking us to an ace match against GWANGDONGFREECS.
Man, I gotta say, I was expecting Desperado to come through with some big plays and potentially beat the Freaks here in item mode. I was not anticipating a 3-0, and we were talking about coming into this one, even if you don't beat the Freaks in the ace match, in speed mode, even you walk away with an L, at least play for the round differential. Well, look at this. They went 3-1 in speed mode, so they picked up a track there, and then a 3-0 victory in item mode. Right now, the differential actually favoring Desperado.
Yes. And here's
pretty crazy.
And here's the crazy thing, right? Is that, I mean, who knows who's going to actually enter the ace match here, but Ghost is another one of those players that some of the other pro players have said, okay, he's someone that we got to watch out for. And Ghost actually said coming into the regular season, one of his goals is he wants to make sure that he doesn't lose in ace matches. If he enters today, he's going to have that chance to make that happen, and against some legendary players on the side of GWANGDONGFREECS.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be Ghost coming out from Team Desperado. I think for the KWANGDONGFREECS, it'll also probably be World. Their speed ace coming through, although we have been surprised by them in the past. The thing about this team is, really they can take just a name out of a hat.
Yeah.
From their roster, and whoever it is has a chance to win an ace match against the best players in the world. So see a little bit of a discussion here on the KWANGDONGFREECS side in terms of, who's feeling in their best form right now today, who's feeling confident, who wants to go up and try and put all this on their shoulders. But for Team Desperado, I would be really surprised if they don't go to Ghost. I think in a 1v1 situation when it comes to speed, he's probably the most mechanically gifted player on this team, and he even came into this season, as you said in the interview, saying that, my goal is to actually win in ace matches for this team. And Desperado, as a roster, they have to recognize that with Banana as their captain, as their item ace, one of their big win conditions coming all the way into the playoffs is going to be securing victories in item mode and potentially forcing ace matches. So a key moment here for both these teams.
Yeah, and then they're showing Striker trying to set up on camera, but I'm wondering if that's a fake out, because you gotta imagine it's Ghost. I mean, it could be Striker, but we'll have to wait and see. Now it is Winding Slopes, and if it's going to be World on the other side, I mean, he's had a number of ace matches during the preseasons on this track. I mean, overall, GWANGDONGFREECS in general have been able to find some good success here, but who's it going to be? It's actually going to be SUNGBIN coming in to take on Ghost from Desperado.
SUNGBIN, the veteran here on the KWANGDONGFREECS, going up against Ghost, and for KWANGDONGFREECS, they have been burned by these amateur teams in the past, in the preseason. In KDL preseason too, it seemed like it actually might have been one of their big weaknesses, where these amateur teams upsetting them heading into the playoffs. And so for Kwangdong Freaks now coming into the regular season, going up against Desperado here in the ace match, you got to think that the pressure is going to be a little bit higher than it was before. They might have that monkey on their back whispering into their ear, like, are you really going to be able to step up and beat this amateur team, or are you going to relive the drama of KDL preseason 2? We're about to find out as we're going into an ace match between these two teams. The track is going to be mind-winding slopes.
The race begins as SUNGBIN and Ghost, they now hold the destiny for their team here in the ace match between Desperado and Kwangdong Freeks.
It's all or nothing here on Winding Slopes, but I just want to kind of bring it back and remember the plays that Ghost brought to the table previously in Team Speed mode. He had some unbelievable spin turns, some great body fighting. The body checks were substantial. The sweeping, when it was needed, was on point, was able to deliver a 2-3-4 victory for his team because of it. And you can see the pressure he's mounting right now. SUNGBIN, he's fighting back quite well, but Ghost actually really trying to battle and take these tighter turns, and he is not afraid to collide with SUNGBIN.
Yeah, and Ghost is playing so aggressively, and part of that is, to some extent, he's abusing the fact that he doesn't lose boost gauge if he bumps into the wall. So if he can make sure it's at the end of his drift, he's able to still maintain the momentum and still put pressure onto SUNGBIN. He is doing everything he can to put the pressure onto the veteran and force him to make mistakes.
Yeah, he is doing a lot of fighting right now with his cart body, and in these narrow passageways, it's pretty hard for SUNGBIN here to try and find an angle on this turn. It might be one of his best bets.
Yeah.
And yep. Oh!
He's trying to, but here's the thing. Ghost made sure to not use the boost during the straightaways because he knew he couldn't pass, and now he's able to still keep the lead with those 360 turns, one more boost. But SUNGBIN, an incredible block on that line in the last corner. He read Ghost like a book, and it's going to be SUNGBIN who secures the victory for the Kwangdong Freeks in the ace match.
And I was getting some deja vu with that spin turn coming out from Ghost again in this speed mode. It seemed like the stars were aligning for the Desperado speed ace, but SUNGBIN, as you said, coming through with a absolutely clutch block to just steal all the momentum away from Ghost, deliver the win, and at the end of the day, the Freaks are going to take a victory here, but it was a hard-fought battle.
Yeah, I mean, it was down to the wire, and if SUNGBIN did not get the correct read on that wide turn that Ghost was taking in the last corner, and I think part of it is that SUNGBIN understood, because he started to put the pressure on during those hairpin turns, that Ghost had to expend the little boost gauge advantage he had, and that meant that the only chance he had was to try to overtake with a different angle on that last corner. SUNGBIN able to just line it up as perfect, pixel perfect as it could be, and it's going to be the hard-earned victory here for Kwangdong Freeks. They will not fall to their very first amateur team opponent here in the regular season of KDL.
Yeah, remaining undefeated here in the top of the standings, but, you know, that round differential, that track differential, not quite where they would want it to be. No. Emerging against an amateur team, you know, some of these other pro teams like Live Sandbox might be able to come through this regular season and take fights like this one with a 3-0 and a 3-1. In speed and item mode and just really start to stack up those points. So for Kwangdong Freeks, although they do get the set victory here, it's almost a Pyrrhic victory against one of these amateur teams, because I think you really want to, as the favorites for the league coming in, just buckle up and not show the kind of weakness that they showed here in item mode, because frankly, it felt like Desperado on every single track. It wasn't like they were getting lucky. It wasn't like Kwangdong Freeks were, you know, losing out on the item setups they were getting. Desperado just had the better reads time and time again. They had the better strategy. And so for the Freaks, that's a little bit concerning. And for Desperado as an amateur team, I think if they can continue to deliver that kind of performance, they are going to be able to set up quite a few upsets against these pro teams.
Absolutely. And if, you know, if more of their players aside from Ghost, you know, are able to have that mechanical prowess, right? Because it definitely seems like even in speed mode, they have the right ideas of what the opponents are trying to do, what your win conditions are, but Ghost may be seemingly the only one who can always execute their answers to perfection, right? Some of the other players maybe, you know, getting a little flustered when they're having to go into these physical scuffles against their opponents. So if they can brush that up during the regular season, because remember, we have a decently long regular season to go with only 2 matches each week, so we'll have to see if Desperado can grow into a new form and maybe even take a spot in the postseason.
Yeah, it's going to be a marathon, not a race here in the regular season. And so for an amateur team like Desperado, I think Ghost is just going to go back to the grindstone, try and work it out. He showed some really good mechanical mechanical skill in speed mode today, both in team and in that ace match. And I think eventually they're going to be able to rely on him in ace matches to come through in the clutch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, he takes that first loss here in the ace matches, so his goal of trying to maintain a win streak in ace matches not going to come to fruition, but I think he still proved his skill, and he's still going to be a player that a lot of opponents say, I don't really want to mess with him in these 1v1s. The way he was putting pressure onto SUNGBIN was incredible.
Yeah, the collisions, then also the spin turn, both in the team speed mode and in the solo speed in that ace match, coming through on winding slopes, that's very difficult to execute. Guys, next match is going to be Always versus NUTMITE. I think we're getting ready to go to a break.
Yeah, we'll be right back, and we'll bring you another team match here in week 2 of KDL.